program is sponsored by Sue Minahan.
Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello to the journey of Talk Cosmos. Today is August 4th. We are now in Leo, Leo, Leo. The sun, the moon today happening, the new moon. Mercury behind the scenes going, we're going to kind of change gears and look forwards and backwards. We are in self-actualization. Not an easy feat. It's time to breathe deep, enjoy the nature, plow in and look at our positives, right? There are positives. Okay, we are ready now for archetypal symbols.
Synthesizing the new moon consciousness through archetypal Sabian symbols, numerology, lunar mansions, tarot, and astrology, all together illuminating a new moon vision story. This is your Archetypal Symbols panel.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett, a professional astrologer, intuitive, numerologist, and tarot reader. I'm a certified sacred healing counselor, providing nurturing, in-depth consultations for individuals and couples. I'm an author, blogger, speaker, and international Reiki master and teacher. I create safe space in which to explore the deeper patterns of your life, to clarify your current circumstances and help you find your best path forward.
And I'm Justin Crockett Elzie, an archetypal Jyotish astrologer, yoga and meditation teacher, and author. I combine both Western ancient astrology and modern psychological astrology with Eastern Vedic astrology, and I specialize in predictive, electional, and karmic astrology for individuals and couples. I also do in-depth astrological research into arcane astrological concepts, focusing on the mystical, occult side of astrology.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift." And that's why it's called the present. Well, I'm unwrapping. Hello to both of you. Hi, Justin, and hi, Liz.
Hi, it's good to be back.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that reminds me, self-actualization. It sounds so good. It sounds so easy. But being in the trenches, it's like, ooh, that's right. That's what we're doing. We're going forward. Things are looking good, right? So what are we? Here we are. Here's Elizabeth, Liz Muschett, and it's at alightpath.com, and Justin Crockett, Elzie, JustinCrockettElzie.com, and myself, Sue, at Talk Cosmos. And we have emails. You can contact any of us. We all do readings, and it is Archetypal Symbols panel. It's a new moon. It's all about its consciousness. We're renewing life choices. What do we intend? What do we want to do? It's at the second decan. It's 12 degrees and 34 minutes in Leo. And it's today. It was earlier. I happened to be up. It was 1 o'clock this morning.
Hawaii time.
Yes, Hawaii time. That's right. 7:13 if you were in the East Coast. And for you folks, you'd be up before the birds. No, probably not. I bet the birds come up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, in the West, where you are?
4:13. The sun's probably getting ready to rise, but I don't think it's had risen yet.
But the birds are up. The birds
probably.
are up. Yeah, the birds, I hear them every morning. It's like, wake up, get up. Leo, fire. Loves joyfully. That's a good thing to remember. Heart-centered. And it's a star. It is the center of the solar system. So there are some negative things, which we'll mention, but we have to remember it. it does tend to, which I haven't put here, give roles. It delegates roles. You may not like how you're being delegated, but you might like delegating. So there you go. Any comments?
No, you're doing good.
Okay. And it's our legacy: creative, playful, romance, self-leadership. So the moon, I included this because it is the new moon, and the moon is in Leo, and there is a shadow side to that. It can be, with all that great leadership, a bit too egocentric and emotionally selfish, or that child is insecure, which we all, I shouldn't say all, bless the people that haven't, but many of us have some insecurities left over, and that we manage and reform and use and create with. And some of us, well, showing off can be good, although it can be, well, take it as you might. And criticism, that is part of life. Virgo knows it. And it's a little tough, especially when the moon and the sun get together. It's like, ooh, you're hurt. And the tyrant. Boy, we seem to have a lot of those in the political field these days. Let's talk about numerology. It adds up to 3. Liz?
Yes, so the number 3 is ruled by Jupiter, and 3 is about creativity, joy, communication, growth, and a cycle of life. And then Sue added the shadow being overindulgent.
Yep.
And then you want to go to the next one?
Okay. Justin?
No, we just need to
Okay, good enough. Yeah. The moon is always 2, and it's polarity, balance. It has a good part. It's partnership. It's a feminine. It's yin. It's receptive in that case. The shadow is, of course, oversensitivity, fears, and sacrificing if it's others, with polarity and balance and patience, because it's 2, if sacrificing too much to the other. Liz, do you want to say more or on?
Yeah, go to the next one, please.
Okay, go ahead.
The
sun, the 1.
Yeah, the number 1 is ruled by the sun. It's independent, confident, and leadership and beginnings. And the shadow is superiority or not a good listener.
Yeah, so for 3, you think of the trilogy, it's really a focus of heart, especially in Leo. It's our self of the moon, the inner self, the sun of our ego self, and then that sense of putting it all together and listening. I guess listening is important, yes. Tarot is always in coordination with numerology and it's the mystic sciences. What can we say? It's the mystic arts. And the major arcana is the strength card. It has been sometimes said be justice, but this is strength. And it is with Leo. Liz, love to hear what you have to say.
Well, it's like using your strength or regaining your strength and courage and taking control and moving forward. And then the shadow is, could be some weakness that you have, or you need to regain strength and acting with kindness and understanding.
Yeah, it really does correspond beautifully with what Leo wants to do, to be magnanimous, that fortitude and confidence and taking control of life. It's like, yes, we want to use what we've got. The minor arcana applied to astrology, has decans, and decans are like divided 30 degrees into 10. So the first 10, the second 10, the third 10. So and this is a little chart to indicate it. The 5 of wands represent fire, these enhance your Leo. So if you have a planet in these degrees that happen to be from Leo, beginning Leo to almost 10 degrees, it's going to be in the first decan. And the dates are, and Saturn is in Leo. So it's a 5 of wands. Liz?
Right. And it corresponds to the first 10 days that the sun is in the sign of Leo.
And the Lord of Strife, would that be like you want to work so that challenges and hard work, it is contentious, but it doesn't mean that you're going to have strife. It just means that you have to really work harder for that.
Well, it could be all the bosses in the company want to go forward with their idea, and they have to come to some kind of compromise. So they're all wanting to get their idea put into the pot. So, and they have to prioritize which one goes first or eliminate some of those.
Well, our sun and moon is in the second decan. So it's a 6 of Wands in Leo, and it's a Lord of victory, achievement, success. Boy, that goes right along with some of the numerology too. Yeah?
Yeah. Justin, did you want to comment on this one?
No, I think you got it covered.
Okay. And the last is from 20 degrees to the very end of it, 2959 Leo. Liz, go ahead.
The 7 of Wands is Mars in Leo. It's the Lord of Valor. So if we looked back at the 5 of Wands and they're, trying to decide whose idea gets moved forward, here it's like the idea has been chosen and now the people are behind to make that come into being.
I like that. I have my Ceres at 26 degrees. And Ceres is, help is always kind. Thank you. The court card.
So we have the King of Wands for the court card. And the kings are usually, they rule and they've, matured and grown, and their kings are visionary and they're leaders and creativity.
Yeah, and the King of Wands, if I'm correct, is you say visionary?
Mm-hmm.
Did I hear that? Yes. Okay.
And then the deck that we use today is the Morgan Greer deck, because we forgot to put that on there, but just so that people know.
So in other words, if you're pulling the King of Wands, you know that it is representative of Leo. Is that right? Because it doesn't have any degrees.
Right.
And because besides it's fire, but it's Leo, not necessarily Aries or Sagittarius.
No, but some people could use it as the other fire signs, but I like to look at it as Leo. But there are differences for different people's tradition in astrology and tarot.
Yes. Well, that may go around, I suppose. Justin, if you want to talk about the Jyotish lunar mansions for the Nashakras.
Yeah, so in Jyotish, we look at what the zodiac sign that the moon is going through, and there's particular myths surrounding each of the fixed stars in the constellation. And this is what we call the padas. They're into sections. And in this particular one, if we go to the next slide, this particular moon is in the Nashakra or lunar mansion of Ashleisha. And this particular Nashakra or lunar mansion is ruled by the deities, the Serpas or the Nagas. And these were the deified serpents and deities of wisdom. And so that's why we have the symbol as the coiled serpent or the wheel. And you know how a lot of times snakes, we see them approach something and they got their tongue out and they're kind of hesitant as they approach something. Well, the basis is below with this is the approach. Do we take things? And the basis below is agitation. So this speaks to how we, as we move forward in our lives and we take our approach to our goals, which is what this is related to, is how we approach that. The theme for this Nakshatra is industrious, and Ashleisha is if a person's born with particular plants in Ashleisha, they'll definitely have goals, but it's a type of person who they know what relationships they need in order to get to those goals. But once they're done, they may move on from that relationship because it's very sometimes considered transactional in relationship. But it has this energy of dealing with emotional exchange with relationships as we move towards goals. And they're really focused on higher spiritual material goals. So this goes in alignment with this new moon, this Leo new moon, which can be very goal-orientated and industrious. And the ruling planet is Mercury of this Nakshatra. So it's also very mental oriented.
I find these so illuminating. I tie together, I'm thinking to myself in the transformation that we're all enduring and experiencing at the same time, this idea of rebirth that the serpent represents. And the entire idea lately, I've been discovering the approach is vital. I mean, if we're going to, it can be the secret between our success and not the success of interactions. Let's just say the nodes are in relationships right now. I find it really inspiring to hear you. I hope because if we haven't something that's bothering us, maybe to begin working on something, it may be triggering something. It's how we, I hope I'm expressing this right, but how we might reconsider the constructive way of working with that, so that the approach is building instead of tearing it down. Although sometimes I guess things need to be torn down. But last thought as I ramble, and I'm not trying to ramble, is it really reminds me of Scorpio too. All the water. You know, when you say Pisces of the above and the exchange of relationships, when it's finished, it's over. That's so Scorpion, because the resources are finished. It's like, hey, I need new resources. Do you think?
Yeah.
Maybe? Okay, well, you're generous. Here, a little tiny bit of mythology. The sun was in ancient Greece, Helios and Apollo. They were conflated together. However, they're really distinctly different. Helios was a Titan god, which is before the Olympians. That's after the primordial ones, when there was Sky and Gaia. And the sun, Helios drove a chariot across the sky every day. It brought light to the world. And later, Apollo became enlightenment. And there's more to Apollo, but it's more of a conceptual idea than this physicality of Helios going across. And again, it all relates back, because essentially the light at that time meant meaningfulness, growth, renewal. And again, it brings back the idea of the court card, the king of wands, and the strength card of 8 with its leadership and confidence. The sun is where you see everything. It's not night, where it's more non-linear, as Jason Hawley would say, but it's everything is visible. And this Nashakra is exciting to think that it is how we find our goals. Perhaps we get visibility. We can perhaps see more of it. I'm just expanding on that a little bit, but there you go. Tie it all together and get to your intentions. The constellation is Leo, and this is from Earth Sky. Regulus is a royal star, one of the 4 royal stars. All the fixed ones are, and it's the heart of the lion.
And at the new moon, the sky is dark, so it's easier to observe the stars in the sky.
Oh, good. And Cancer was the dimmest, so it was difficult to see. I noticed that. And we cover Sabian symbols, and we have a narrative story. It's going to be from the past, the present, what the actual Sabian is, and then going ahead. It's an evolving focus. These are from 1925 with spiritualist medium Elzie Wheeler and the astrologer Mark Edwin Jones. We use the chart of the United States at the eastern point in Washington, D.C. to illustrate the concepts and influences for the national country. And we are involved in a very serious political race this year. So we find that this is a very useful chart to use. And it's also applicable to Canada, because their capital is also on the East Coast. The ascendant is in Leo, 23 degrees. The MC is 17 degrees. Taurus are both fixed, and the sun and moon is 12 degrees, but it's in the 12th house. Shall we go on? So we're going to do the Sabian symbols 4 for each, and it'll be one after. We'll begin with the ascendant, 23 degrees Leo. This is Eastern time. And at 22, where we're coming from is a carrier pigeon. Now, those are extinct now, but it's fulfilling a mission. And that means that spirituality through the air is, in a way, perhaps servicing. It's applying to service to mankind. And it's an idealistic idea of the world server, which is interesting because we know, politically speaking, a lot happened this week with the Democratic Party and President Biden releasing the people from Russia, with working with 24 nations. Maybe we'll tie that in later, not to take up time. Go ahead, Liz, roll on.
Okay, the present. In a circus, the bareback rider displays her dangerous skills, the audacity and perseverance required to control and play with the powerful energies of the vital realm in human existence, virtuosity.
And Sabian, the Sabian symbol of Leo, 24 degrees, is totally concentrated upon inner spiritual attainment. A man is sitting in a state of complete neglect of bodily appearance and cleanliness. And the keynote here is an interior focalization of energy and consciousness at the expense of all forms of outward activity and care. And so we have a concept here of total concentration.
Do you want to do the next one too?
Sure. And where we're working towards, besides the 24 and the 25, working towards those as a large camel is seen crossing a vast and forbidding desert. The keynote there is self-sufficiency in the face of a long and exhausting adventure. The key word here is this need for total independence from our surroundings and utter self-reliance.
Then at the MC, which is, of course, before the 10th house of our social interactions, it's in Taurus, sign of survival and self-reliance. And the past is at 16 degrees Taurus. It's an old teacher who fails to interest his pupils in traditional knowledge. In the keynotes, what past knowledge is inadequate in the time of crisis, which is a failing, really. And perhaps it's also just part of the turning of events. There is no past that really works. And the principle of creative frustration. Liz?
In the present, Taurus 17, a symbolic battle between swords and torches. Refusing to depend upon the past, the seeker turns warrior, fighting anew in the eternal great war. Now is a polarization of values.
It's interesting. We've had this again and again. It seems this is a theme coming back and back. So, from however many we've been doing this with the Sabians. Go ahead, Justin, if you would.
So the Taurus 18 degrees is a woman airing an old bag through an open window of her room. The keynote here is the cleansing of ego consciousness, and the concept is purification.
And go on.
And then Taurus 19, a new continent rising out of the ocean. The keynote here is the surge of new potentiality after a crisis. And so what we're looking at here is space and spontaneity.
Well, there's hope on the horizon, yes. Again, now centering into what's universal around the world is 12 degrees Leo, sun and moon. And we'll begin from 11 up to 14. So where it's coming from out of the past is at 11 degrees Leo, children play on a swing, hanging from the branches of a huge oak tree. And the keynotes, once again, going back to tradition, the power of tradition, it shelters the beginnings, the very start of individual self-expression. It is how we begin. We emulate other people. It's how we begin with things. The key word, the spontaneous activity of the innocent mind. Spontaneity, I'm noticing too, is one of the key words going on and on. Go ahead, Liz.
The present, 12 Leo, an evening party of adults on a lawn illuminated by fancy lanterns. Group relaxation in fashionable surroundings as an escape from work routine. Sophistication.
And then Leo 13 degrees is an old sea captain rocking himself on the porch of his old cottage. And the keynote here is the quiet mind's recollections of crises and joys long ago past. And so quiet recollection is the theme. And then what the 14 degrees Leo, human soul seeking opportunities for outward manifestation. Keynote here is the yearning for self-actualization, which is what we're talking about on the show today. And so the concept here is letting the soul speak out, allow the power of the true tone of our being to manifest itself smoothly, easily, unobstructed, or expect a variety of consciousness. Let the soul manifest.
Yeah, consequences. It is really interesting as we must listen to everybody else speak their yearning for self-actualization, that I guess that's just the process we're in, isn't it? It's very strong. Here we are going to review. That's a lot of information. I know we're in Gemini theme. Mercury's retrograde. Jupiter is in it's in Gemini. However, we'll tie the story together. For the ascendant, and I think either one of you, Justin, do you want to do this or whoops? Oh,
well, I'll just kind of look at it in total here. I mean, we look at the ascendant as how we're moving forward at this particular point in time. So I think it's reminding us to move forward as helping others, the world server. It's very Virgo-like energy, and really kind of relying on ourselves and being very focused in using our virtuosity or our skill. And then, of course, what we're really trying to get to is tapping into our creativity, and what we've done in the past necessarily won't work for the future. And it's always good to let go of things, purify, and also be spontaneous or brainstorming with our minds. And then, of course, the sun and the moon is reminding us about that spontaneity of the innocent mind, and being brainstorming and having that quiet recollection brings new ideas, but all of it's working towards us wanting to manifest our goals and self-actualize.
Thank you so much. And a big, big apology to folks. I just noticed we're not in Cancer. I should have shifted those to be Leo, right? It's 11 to 14 degrees Leo. So that should be 11, 12, 13, and 14. I don't know. I won't be able to change it but I can make a note when we, okie doke. We are going to say, take a break for a little moment. Come right back and you'll meet back again with Liz and Justin and Sue. Thank you. Remember, it's a new moon. It's happening. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the Yang period of Leo, ruled by the solar sun. Having departed from a cycle based on the internal process of emotional attachments requiring security and safety, the energy of Leo externally manifests our legacy through children and artistic creations. As a fixed Yang fire sign that desires to ignite actualization, Leo the lion takes the risk to generously exhibit love and welcome all to share their stage with joyous pleasure for living life.
This is Martha Norwalk, every Sunday morning beginning at 9 a.m. Thanks in part to Jude Ponton at the Whispering Dragon Center in Seattle, we cover the world of animals. This week, August 11th, it's Best Neuroenergetic Balancing, Rasmussen Reset, and Energy Code Sunday. Dr. Nels Rasmussen and Linda Rasmussen will take phone calls and do free remote treatments for you or your animal friends. They can help with emotional, behavioral, or physical issues. So hope you can join us for Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
Make it a great day. Keep your dial on Alternative Talk 1150.
Well, we're back again. Yes, August 4th. And again, just to remind you quickly, Elizabeth Muschett is at alightpath.com, and you can email her at liz@alightpath.com. Justin, you can email him at justin.elzie, that's ELZIE, @gmail.com. We have more podcast listeners. We have to remember those, dear souls. And myself, just email info@talkcosmos.com. Liz, what's happening with you these days? Lots, I know.
Well, I have a YouTube channel and it's growing, and Justin's on with me for 3 episodes. We do the full moon forecast, an astrology monthly forecast, and we started a Chiron asteroid series on Chiron retrograde. And then I have the Astrology Star Sisters talk over tea, and Sue's on my show, and we're concentrating on the dwarf planets for a while. And then Madame Simon is on my show, and Joy Vernon and Marcia Bouchard. I have an upcoming one, and I haven't scheduled it yet, so I'll get that on there. And I also have a newsletter that I put out every week, so love to have you join it.
Busy, busy, busy. It's wonderful. Very exciting.
I was going to note one thing. She's actually got a show coming up. If people like the conversation about the astrology and the tarot, that you're going to cover the Leo decans with Joy. So
Yes.
I just wanted to point that out.
It does. We augment. That is the beautiful part about all of these, because also the dwarf planet Ceres and moon, it's very prominent in this chart. It is all month. And so that's going to be exciting. And I know also with, and I will I'll make a plug when it comes to my time. Here, Justin, and you have.
Yeah, I've got some
activities.
things on Instagram, and I'm also doing of course, the stuff with Sue. I'm also doing a show with Michael Bartlett, who's an astrologer from New Mexico, and we do the relationship guys. So tune into our YouTube channel.
Yes, most exciting to find out your dynamic. All these are wonderful. I am with Liz. You can find me also on my Talk Cosmos channel if you go under videos featuring Sue. And there's been 6 of them. There will be. It's exciting. Justin is with me in this new panel that we're starting. And it was inspired when the USA Chiron return happened on April 21st, the same day that we had Jupiter and Uranus conjunct. And from that, we did the Republican convention. And in 2 weeks, we're doing, maybe it's 2 weeks, I think, the Democrat convention. It's going to be smack dab. It's going to be great. So tune in for that. And also, Kaleidoscope.
Can I say a point about that really quick? Especially if a person likes mundane astrology, that's kind of what we'll be talking about. And that's the focus of that as well. So I'm really excited to be on that with you, Sue.
Yes, it is. I know. I enjoy it too. And we talked about the candidates and their charts in the United States, and it's really an interrogative approach of how to understand our things. I will also mention that Kaleidoscope Visions is no longer doing transit readings, and we're doing what it really supports this program. We're doing the 4 lunar phases. So we start with sometimes the 3rd quarter from the last one, and we do briefly the new moon, and then we go into the other phases. And this show really centers on the new moon, which is wonderful because that's where we have the real seed growth. The lunar phases are telling how is that story evolving and whatnot. So tune into both of these. We're changing. I'm sure you're changing out there, and we intend to get together. Here we are. The time zones. In London, it will be at almost midnight, 12. No, it'll be right after noon. It'll be 12 o'clock noon, 13 minutes after it. And in down under the equator, it's going to be tomorrow. It was at 7:13 a.m. in the West Coast. Briefly, and thank you, Liz. I put in that declination thermometer. I just love it. That's from Solar Fire. It's so cool. It shows what's out of bounds. And of course, Ceres is out of bounds. And it has been for quite a while, and it will be all until January. And more than out of bounds, it's T-squaring. It's an action-oriented energy focus between our past and our future. And that's a collective dharma, karma energy of Rahu and Ketu, right? Rahu and Ketu, if you
Rahu
call
and
it that.
Ketu, yes.
Yeah, or north and south.
No.
The tail and the head of the dragon. So it's like purging and becoming, self-actualization. It's really strong. So that's going to be, because it is about nurturing and grief. Generally. Mercury, on the other hand, another ongoing event, is retrograde 1 of 3 times this year, and it's in a Virgo. It's going to go back into Leo, and it's starting, the shadow will be, I forgot to say, maybe you remember, it's
until September 12th.
Right, and I can't remember when it started. Well, at any rate, it was back a little while ago. But we will be through this until the 27th of August. So we are busy looking forwards and backwards, revising, rethinking. It does give us an opportunity to understand more, but it takes more time too. It's not always easy to change that instinct to just want to initiate because fire likes to move. Virgo, it's not too bad. Virgo's accustomed to wanting to analyze things. Any thoughts?
No, I think you covered it well.
Yeah.
Also today, Venus ingresses into Virgo. She's changing sign. So it's like a busy day today with the new moon, Mercury stationing retrograde, and Venus going into a new sign.
It is. And also with Mercury, I'm remembering she is ruling Gemini. And we will see how important Jupiter in Gemini is in our charts. So we have hard and soft aspects, you could say. And just to help a little bit with the lingo, hard is actually just action. That's all it wants. It's just that you might be bumping into other people. You're going through a crowd and you're not minding your steps per se. But squares are 90 degrees and sesquiquadrate is a square and a half. And this is a little more tension because you got more you're dealing with. And the soft or flowing or connecting trines, it moves. It can be too much. It doesn't know when to stop, but on a better note, it can at least make things smooth. And 6 houses that connection. That's really a strong energy, and some people like it the best. Philosophy. Abraham Maslow, an American psychologist, said it's easier to act into a new way of thinking than to think yourself into act. Now, they're both important, but that's something to consider. Steps of action are important. So if you come with these squares, it's a dynamic. This is just an overview of the chart. We will come back to it. It shows that there's a lot of interaction. There's squares, there's trines, there's
So you need to fix your microphone or something. It's not working right. So this is a chart depicting all the aspects that are to the sun and moon. And then do you want to try and go to the next one or speak?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, better. Thank you.
Okay. Generally, I was curious. What is the new moon doing? Not much. It really isn't, although it is in its leadership of the sun, as we saw through the tarot and through the Nashakra and through the numerology and even the mythology of it. And so it's working in a team. It has a delegated team, you might say, with all these other aspects coming up, because generally it's just, even the square is a local. It's for the United States to the MC, but there's no action really involved. Although it does have a sesquiquadrate to Neptune, and that's pretty important too. I think maybe I'll mention it now because Justin, you brought up the idea, which is very important. All planets have nodes, meeting points of their intersection between their orbit and the sun's orbit. And Neptune's north node is at 12 degrees Leo, meaning the sun and the moon are smack dab right on top of its north node, meaning they're intrinsically very involved, if I could say that word.
Yeah, well, this is a new moon that's on the Neptune north node, and Neptune represents the collective. So this is very important. This means that this new moon is very tied into what we're all doing, subconsciously at this particular point in time. And this is a really great time to launch new creative projects with this new moon on the Neptune's north node. So
great. I'm inspired. Thank you. Sorry about this StreamYard, and I didn't realize with the white out, but we actually have we have 2 T-squares here. And as you can see, there's an angle of 90 degrees, and that is the apex to an opposition as it toggles. So we have Ceres with Pholus that is squaring our relationship axis of Libra and Aries, ourself, our actions as we're doing it, and our relationships with others, and in turn, our relationship with ourselves. Justin and Liz, let's hear a little bit about your thoughts too on this dynamic.
Go ahead.
Well,
Liz.
and relationships have certainly been changing, and it's like, to me, I would just say it's an opportunity to reevaluate and work on relationships if they need some work.
And they are. Go ahead, Justin. Yeah.
No, I just going to say I agree with that. And anytime we look at a square, I love how Liz always describes it as it's asking us to take action. And so with the nodes, squaring Ceres and Pholus here, it is actually asking us to evaluate or take some action when it relates to the structure and underlying what we're doing with our relationships. And then the second one, I don't know if you spoke to that one, Liz.
Not yet. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, no, I find it interesting that it's this Pallas opposition to Sedna and Uranus, which is again looking at the patterns. Pallas is about patterns in change, and the fact that it is squaring Mercury and Venus there. Again, how we're communicating. That's going to be a little bit more important now since Mercury is retrograding. So it's just something to think about.
Well, it is. There's changes, and there's change in our strategies, looking at all of this and how we nurture. When you look at the United States here, we have again such a reconsideration of focuses on a political basis, and it's also personal, our personal importance of really how are we nurturing ourselves, and to take into account that yes, it's that we have some personal aspects here with Venus and Mercury, but life around us, there's others, it's affecting us, and we need to coordinate that into a whole way of claiming our nurturing. There are many, many flowing energies here. There's trines, many trines. A mini trine is when there's a trine and it's connected with 2 sextiles. That's pretty strong, actually. There's a grand trine, and that happens to be in, it's mixed signs here, but it's making a kite. So the trine is flowing, but the kite that's the energy point, and that's not always so easy. There's a lot dynamics here. We could go on forever about it.
Yeah, and the planets that make that up are Uranus trine Pluto and Pluto trine Juno, and then the kite goes to Neptune.
Yeah, so perhaps we want to explore that, or Justin, go ahead.
And I was going to say, if people are thinking about conceptually, it's always really important to pay attention to any aspects between Uranus and Pluto. It's something that Richard Tarnas has talked about, and generally, when we see Uranus and Pluto in any aspect, it is bringing major changes in the collective. It's more indicative of larger changes, and I think we sort of see that right now in politics around the world. There's been a big shift. But one of the things I like about this, and I'm just curious what you two think, is I love this sextile between the Leo Sun and New Moon, and with the conjunction with Jupiter and Mars and Gemini.
Yes.
I think this is like, if you wanted a perfect, a really good aspect for creativity and communications and writing and public speaking and producing something or a movie, this is a really positive aspect, I think.
Excellent.
And I would add to that, it's like, make your 5, 10, 15-year plan and write it all down, and you don't have to accomplish it in one day, but this new moon is an amazing time to do that, to manifest your desires. And don't think about the how, just what you want to manifest or bring in.
Excellent. And I'm remembering that Uranus is conjunct Algol, which was brought up in other talks among many people. And Algol is a very strong energy that, on one hand, only wants us to not be so self-imposed that we get frozen looking at ourselves, but rather and unafraid to see the pain in life, because that really, I think, humbles us to realize that as we're not inflating, but as we're actualizing, that other people have dynamics that are valuable, and to put them together. Point of Thales, it keeps coming up. It's a strategy aspect, and you look at what, and pardon all this, I borrowed it from another show, but it does show a little bit better the three trines, mini trines, you could say, but it has an opposition. So it's with the nodes, and again, it's with the sun and moon. So the sun and moon is really constructing, and with that, thank you for bringing up the sextile to Jupiter, Mars. We have a lot of help if we go within, I think, and not get too dropping away from that. I always want to remind us about the Libra that thinks externally. Other people have their ideas, but keep it in perspective. Remember your own, so that you don't get lost in the mix as you're progressing. 2 yods. Go ahead, Liz.
Okay, well, we actually have 3, but we didn't mark one. But so we have Uranus sextile to Pluto, and it points to Venus. So that's 1 yod. And then the other one is Juno and Pallas Athena, and it points to Chiron and Eris.
Right. Well, the one, thinking of it as the apex, Venus stand out, and which also has all its energies. And then you have Chiron and Eris. That's a standout. Those are what are trying to juggle this sextile between those other energies.
Exactly. And, Venus in Leo, it's like stand up and be seen, like you said. And then that Chiron Eris is like teach something that you know, or share it with people.
It's a perfect antidote with Ceres, to use those wounds to go nurturing. Do you have a thought there, Justin?
Well, yeah, the one that's with Eris and Chiron, I think it's because Eris is about discord, and it's asking us to, because Juno represents relationships, and Pallas is about patterns. I think it's a good time for healing and looking at if a person's listening to the show today and is having some discord In a relationship, this is a good positive thing for this is a good time to evaluate the pattern of how maybe this is not the only relationship they've had discord with. Maybe it's others. So there's this, I think Eris and Chiron are really informing us there with Juno and Pallas.
I like that. And also to remember to release. I mean, Eris wants to be inclusive. So to toss out what isn't working too. And as you say, with yourself, to remember that maybe the buck stops with yourself if it's a personal issue. I mean, if it's happening to yourself, that these situations are like being repeated. I hope I didn't put my foot in my mouth there. Okay, we have Thor's hammer. That is a focal point planet it's astrological here. It's a major hammer. Thor was in Norway, in the Scandinavian countries, and he made a lot of purpose with that hammer. That's his best result. But it's major action because a sesquiquadrate is 135 degrees. That's a square and a half, and it's heading right to that apex. And between those two planets is another square. Heavy duty. Go ahead, Liz.
Okay. So we have Pholus and Ceres square the north node, and they are both sesquiquadrate to Vesta. And then the other square is between Pallas Athena and the ascendant, and it points their sesquiquadrate to the north node. So the north node is involved in both of these. So Vesta is our home and hearth, and Pallas is strategy and wisdom, and Ceres is grief and nurturing. So there can be some adjustments happening on all these fronts that need attention for us all to move forward, because that north node is about moving forward. And so, Aries being about the self, it's like, are you nurturing yourself? Are you sacrificing yourself? Which one are you doing?
How are you leading? And I want to jump in and say that in vibrational astrology, they have their own way of looking at things. And I'm seeing that this is what there's a 45 degrees between Pallas and Ceres and Pholus there. That's like a half square. And in other words, if you look at it, there's like this trapezoid. And so essentially, and this is just quickly looking at it, all these planets are like in one mix. It's strong. Justin, we only have a few minutes, and I want to
and I think if we want to talk about the concept of Thor's hammer, it's really about, Thor's hammer was a weapon. It's a hammer, right? Hitting something, right? And breaking through something. And I think this can have some meaning if we want to think about the concept of Thor's hammer, that it was helping him to accomplish something. And we can look at it, a hammer as wanting to nail or to break through something. So I like the word breakthrough here, in that this is informing us areas where we can break through, and really it's giving us the power to break through.
Like a coconut. Remember, as a kid, you had to get a hammer, you put it in a bag and you smash that baby. Sorry. And then you could, eat all the good coconut inside. I'm in Hawaii. We got coconuts. All right. So this is the whole picture again. And I will also mention that Rainier Maria Rilke, if I'm saying that right, and he had about 8 names, actually. They condensed it down to these 3, is an Austrian poet and novelist, very important in the German language. The only journey is a journey within. So going back here, what a journey. We are really in a dynamic time.
That's very true. And the other Thor's hammer is between Haumea and Pluto is a square, and they sesquiquadrate to Mars and Jupiter. Mars and Jupiter have been very active in this new moon chart. So the creativity, it's like the more creativity you can bring into your life and enjoy and move forward.
Absolutely. Right there, it's already in that, like Justin, you were bringing up about moon and the new moon being sextile to it. So it is really a matter of doing what you said, Liz, getting a paper, whether it takes a few days, and jotting down the big picture. Jupiter likes the big picture, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And think of the future.
Yeah. The present leads on. Yes. As we self-actualize, tying it together. And
Absolutely.
yeah. Well, goody. We have a few moments to look at each other and say hello with our greenery in the back.
Yeah. Until next time, next month, we'll see you back.
Yeah. And that's going to be September with
Happy Leo new moon.
Virgo.
yes. Yeah. Let's stick with Leo right
Well,
now.
no,
That's
this
right.
is a Leo new moon. Happy Leo new moon.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific Time, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.